Just a few days before Christmas of 2004, the U.S.-led war on terror had reached this Southern Californian ranch, home to high school math teacher and Gold Star mother Vicky Castro. Her son Jonathan, who had enlisted into the Army at age 17, was killed in a suicide attack in Mosul, Iraq on the 21st of December 2004. Iraqi insurgents videotaped the attack.
I teach at the same high school that my son graduated from. I remember when he came home and he told me, he says, "Mom, I'm going to join the Army." And so he talked about how, "But Mom, you know, it'll be a good bullet point on my resume. Besides, they'll train me in anything I want to be. And plus, I'll get to travel. And then also the GI Bill paying for his college." Yeah, he ticked off all those points, all the talking points. And at the time, I was a bit naive because I didn't realize that those were all of those talking points that he had been fed by the military recruiters that had visited his campus on a regular basis.
In 2001, a law was passed under the Bush administration, commonly known as the No Child Left Behind Act. It was supposed to improve the quality of high school education by setting measurable statewide achievement standards. But hidden among the more than 9,000 articles of this law is a passage that makes students the military's prime recruiting target group.
Everybody thought it was about, oh yeah, no kid left behind, no child left behind, let's make sure that all of them go on to college. That's the premise. That's the message that's being sent. But lo and behold, part of the legislation is opening access to the military.
There's strong, and then there's Army strong.
Sergeant Stevens, with the Southern California Recruiting Battalion, explains his views on why young men and women are, more than ever, joining the armed forces.
We all understand that unemployment is going up. Housing value out here is going down. People are looking for a more stable career in order to get there, and they know that the military can provide a stable career.
Everything is about career or about career possibilities. So if a student is interested in maybe getting involved in serving their country on a reserve basis, they got the National Guard. If they want to get a little bit more serious about things, you got the Army recruiting, so I've got that. You got the Coast Guard over here. When I was talking to recruiters, I asked them if they could provide posters that had a theme under education, because that's what it's about.
At Southern California's Lincoln High School, employer outreach specialist and retired Navy officer Mr. Lozelle is working hard to inform students about the career possibilities offered by the various branches of the U.S. Armed Forces.
You're asking about the differences. Well, the thing is with the Navy you have to be comfortable living on a ship. So if you've never been on a ship, because that's what it's about.
What's the difference between that one and the...
And the difference between that one, let's say in the Army?
Yeah.
The Army, you're going to be at a post, at a fort. You're going to be at a fixed location that's going to have a lot of land around it.
Just land?
Yeah, it's at a fort. It's at a post like Fort McHenry or Fort Ord.
But among some of Lincoln High's teachers, students, and parents, the military's recruiting efforts are finding little, if any, approval. Social justice teacher Eduardo Ochoa and a group of his students started a movement to limit the military's influence on youngsters at their school and to abolish a highly controversial marksmanship class offered at Lincoln High and other Southern California high schools, a struggle that the local media has already picked up on.
Classes that teach kids how to ready, aim, fire, now under fire themselves.
No guns in school!
It certainly teaches them discipline, it teaches them values, it teaches them to make good choices.
It's a shameful day when elected officials train students in use of guns and install shooting ranges on places of learning. Those in power are preparing our youth for war as the pink slips are the present.
I found out about the weapons training about 2 weeks into the school year when we first opened up. And everybody who you told was like, No, like they're not. There's no gun range on a school campus. You know, it's unbelievable. Like most 95% of people would be in shock.
Ochoa's students decided to take matters into their own hands by organizing protest against a military-financed class known as Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, or JROTC, a class of which its supporters say teaches students discipline and values, but its opponents claim promotes militarism in schools. Students enrolled in JROTC are instructed in military history, tactics, marksmanship, parading, and various other aspects of military routine. Although the military claims that JROTC is not a recruiting tool, many teachers see it as an effective way of preparing their students to be recruited into the armed forces later on. In fact, about 40% of all students that attended JROTC at their school are said to eventually join the armed forces at some point in their life.
He's a JROTC instructor.
During a meeting at Lincoln High, JROTC instructor and retired Army officer Fernan Dayton is eagerly trying to convince teachers that it is not his job to recruit their kids or promote militarism among them. In his opinion, JROTC is helping students to succeed in high school in order to move on to college and continue their success there.
When you start to impose this military system on that mindset, they become much more open to any advance by the military in their later years. These kids are being targeted. Okay, but and so when the military moves in and they've already been prepped by you.
But no. We do not promote recruitment. We don't talk about
I'm talking about the whole routine of the military discipline.
Okay, we teach discipline. We have to teach discipline. But when they get to college, if they're not disciplined and structured and doing their classwork, they're not going to be successful.
We will help students with their education. We present ourselves in community events like parades. We'll go to schools and we volunteer our time, wrestling coaches, football coaches, track coaches. The community believes that we're here specifically for the reason of putting people into the Army, but it's so much more than that. Our job is to represent the military appropriately.
Just a month ago, one of my students that I had, he came to talk to me to let me know that he was going to join the military. And it was like a flashback back to 2000, because he ticked off every single talking point that my son had given me. And then he says, "Don't worry, Mrs. Castro, I'll be all right." At 17 years old, they have no concept of their own mortality. And I'm sure that they truly believe that they will be all right.
Militarism seems to be deeply rooted in America's society today, with its origins closely tied to the way children in America are being raised. The question is, should teenagers really be confronted with military routine at their high schools, an environment which was intended to be dedicated to their education?